Hello and welcome to the Chapters Creative Conspiracy Podcast. And today is a big day. Today is a day I talk to Amanda Killian, brand strategist and designer extraordinaire. And this is kind of like our formal announcement of us working together. So I decided to get her on the podcast. And basically, it's just kind of like telling each other about our origin stories because, like, we haven't known each other for very long. We've each other on Blue Sky out of all places, and we just started connected, whether it's about music or career or work. And after a while, it's just like, hey, it'd be pretty cool if we did something together. And so today we're announcing the Unstuck Reset. That's the name for now. Where, of course, things might change in the future, but we're pretty excited about it. So if you're interested in checking it out, it's www.chapterscreative.com. Yeah, I had a brain fart there. www.chapterscreative.com / unstuck reset. And so basically the unstuck set is get unstuck through different pivot points in their life cycles. So wherever you are in your business, whether you're just starting it or you're midway through it, or you are $1 million company and you're just kind of stuck and want to get to that next level and you're doing stuff you don't want to do, that's what we help you get through, using my storytelling and using her amazing strategy brain. So without any further ado, this is a conversation between her and I. Check out www.chapterscreative.com / unstuck reset to learn more about it. But until then, here's our conversation, and I hope you have fun like we did. Enjoy. Yeah. I don't know, because I guess like for me, I just want to like have like a chill conversation. So
Yeah,
like there's no for me, like there's a few things I want to talk about. But there's
yeah.
no real agenda. If anything, this is
No real
just like a
agenda.
recorded,
Yeah.
other than us recording this shit and letting people get to know us, I guess,
Yeah.
in each other, I suppose. So
Which I love. I mean, I feel like the key to any good podcast is to believe that you and your friends are really, really charming. So we've got that figured out already.
yeah, you got
Um,
most of that though. Like you're carrying the weight.
that is how the other podcast was too. Before we started this recording, I was talking about doing a D&D podcast. You have to believe that you are so cool to like record yourself playing Dungeons and Dragons and show it to people and like assume that they want to hear it. That's like several levels of theater kid that you have to be operating on.
And like overcoming.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's probably like somebody's probably like prescribed that as therapy to somebody at some point. Like exposure therapy.
Yeah, as far as like
Yeah.
being shy or having
No.
social anxiety and things like
No.
that. But why not throw Dungeons and Dragons in there
Why
too?
not throw Dungeons and Dragons
What
in
was your
there?
class?
But oh, so I was a warlock and
Okay.
I was like a half elf warlock, but the half elves in this world, they were like demons who came from hell to like get souls back to hell.
Uh-huh.
But I was an art historian, and so my warlock patron was this is so Amanda Killian. It was literally like the contiguous comprehensive timeline of like Western art history as like a concept, like as a philosophical concept, like the continuity of the art historical timeline. And so
Hmm.
as the character started to like, there was like an arc where we like went back in time to Renaissance Italy, and it turned out that like a lot of these histories that had been recorded weren't accurate, and like then the character becomes a sorcerer by like learning to rupture the timeline, and like it's basically like chaos magic. It's very also like
Yeah,
very
yeah.
Doom Patrol, like if you've ever read the Grant Morrison Doom Patrol where he talks about like the painting that eats people and he has like the Brotherhood of Dada, like that's very much like so my shit.
Hmm.
And so yeah, like there's like the character like learns to like break bonds by like stop being not being it's very postmodern, like not being precious about art anymore and
Yeah.
stuff, and like breaking things and being very, very Marcel Duchamp about it all. So yeah, I did that for years. And like I genuinely think that the people that I did it with, like we'll turn it into a comic book someday because it is again, it's very Grant Morrison, but it has like a comic book
Yeah.
kind of ethos to it. But I had so much fun with it, and it was like totally live writing, which was really fun because as a writer, sometimes it's just about like sitting down and doing it and just like committing to the bit. So I am
Hmm.
like it did teach me that I like to dictate when I write. That's
Hmm.
like usually the first thing I do when I write is like I just start by talking because it forces me to just kind of get into a flow state. I'm really bad at getting into a flow state when I'm on a page.
Yeah, I have never tried that because I feel like the way my brain kind of works is
Yeah.
that if I were to just talk, I don't know if this has happened for you at least at first. Like I imagine that it's just like any other muscle that
Yeah.
if you the more you do it, the more you just like go for it and not care. But like sometimes I forget words. Sometimes like I just like stop
Yeah.
midstream and I have a hard time collecting. I don't know if that's like you know a medical ailment or not. But like,
No.
but I guess the point is like the point of it is that you're just getting all of this weird subconscious like stuff out, and the point
Yeah.
is to kind of suck at it for a bit. I don't know. Was that like that for you?
The point is to suck at it. I think like it's interesting because I think I definitely, long term, like undiagnosed ADHD teenager, right? So I go on tangents. I can obviously very verbose, talk a lot. And I learned, I think, to kind of pre-compose sentences in college because I was answering questions in like seminars and stuff, and you don't
Mm,
want to ramble. Like, you never want to be the guy who's like, I have a question that's actually more of a comment, and then you just like talk for 17 minutes.
yeah.
And I also am a huge people pleaser, so I really wanted to impress my professors. So I was always trying to have like a complete thought ready in my head. So I think sometime around my 20s, I learned to be a little bit more articulate in terms of like internal brain to external stuff. And that started to just feel like writing. So I think I didn't ever really have a phase where I was doing the talking part and learning it. I think I like learned it by having to talk in like social settings instead.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that it's a skill that you can't acquire. So that's a really roundabout fucking way of saying that I did acquire it as a skill. And I do think that like the nice thing about transcription software is that I hate the sound of my own voice, ironically, as a former podcaster. I've got like the the nasally upstate New York accent where I can say Josh Allen and it sounds exactly like that.
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, go to Allentown, go to Wegmans. God, I'm trying to remember what my I said milk the other day, and my wife was like, "What the hell are you saying?" I was
I
like,
say milk
"Milk."
sometimes. I
Yeah,
say
and
it.
she's
I
like,
don't know what it is,
"Milk."
but
Yeah. Oh my God, it's bad. But I get like the worst of the tri-state area by being from upstate New York. But yeah, no, I like the transcription softwares like Otter and stuff because you can just
mm,
read it and it really does like do a good job of just like you just read it and then I actually will sometimes like just like not even read the whole thing, just like control F, like find like
yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I do think it's helpful and like I think a lot of creativity for me is like I always refer to it as like marinating. Like a lot of writing happens in my head, never on a page. And like I
Yeah.
know now that like especially as I get older there's limited returns on that. Like you do have to get more of it out on the page, I think. It's like David Lynch says, like you if you don't write it down, like there can be a terrible like death drive kind of thing where you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna kill myself because I forgot
Uh,
this idea. So
yeah, that happens all the time. Like especially like in songwriting, like especially if
oh
like
yeah.
you're driving and you're listening to a song and for some reason like there's something in the song that kind of like sparks a line and
Yeah.
it's like well if you don't at that next stoplight if you don't get to it
Write it
like
down.
it's done it's cooked
Yeah.
bye
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
So I don't know like what I want to know like okay you've already shared a lot of some of
Yeah.
your lore
I've already got
like
into
this
the
like
lore.
theater
Yeah.
kid like
Yeah.
D&D.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, like what I kind of find interesting is like how you have kind of like theatery types that end up like caring about business. And sometimes I'm like, how the hell did
Yeah.
that happen? And I think about that
Yeah.
about myself
Yeah.
too. Like I wasn't necessarily like a theater type, but I definitely like, you know, grew up in DIY, like punk and hardcore.
Yeah.
Um, and definitely like arty, loving to read as a kid,
Hmm.
but then all of a sudden like I'm here, you know, like I'm like I am
Yeah.
helping businesses. It's like how the
Yeah.
fuck did we get here? So how the fuck did
Yeah.
you get here? Like
Oh,
like
that's
what's
such
like
a
the
great
origin?
question.
Yeah, like as far as
How did you
like
get here? Yeah.
high school Amanda through college, like I don't know, like take me through it.
I love it. And just to frame too for people, like, I don't know if you want like a little soundbite where we talk about this, but we're partnering on workshops to help businesses
Yeah.
unfuck their shit, basically. Are we allowed to say that? I don't
I'm
know.
I fuck fuck
I'm
fuck
gonna
fuck fuck. I
say
don't care.
fuck, fuck, fuck. Yeah, we
They're gonna
can
hear
put
us
some
say
chicken
like
noises. Yeah,
whoever works with us is gonna hear some fucks.
they're gonna
So
hear some fucks. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I think like it is interesting because like the stuff that you and I originally connected on, we obviously met on Blue Sky, which is really
yeah.
funny because I'm not on Blue Sky anymore because the vibes were not my thing. But and talked about like Punk Guilt about just work stuff. I think I read the chapter's creative website when you were first making some copy updates to it. Is that correct? I have
I'm
a vague
always
memory
making.
of that.
I'm
Yeah, yeah,
always
yeah. You
making.
were just like, can you look at this? And I was like, yes. But so yeah, no, it's interesting because but yeah, so and now we're obviously partnering on this and helping businesses out. And I realize that I think we're both pretty good at it, which is cool. But I have an interesting path with this for sure. So the thing to know about me, I said upstate New York earlier, but I come from Corning, New York, which is a small town of 10,000 people in the Finger Lakes area. And Corning is interesting because upstate New York, obviously, there's that big loud thing at the bottom dangling down there that causes all of our economy to happen or whatever. But in terms of corporate presence upstate, there's only two Fortune 500 companies in all of upstate New York. One of them is in Utica and one of them is in Corning. So there's this really weird dynamic of I was born in Ithaca, which is very like academic, very artsy, beautiful, gorgeous. Like Cornell University is there. Nabokov taught there. I always feel like I have a rant about how Pale Fire is really an Ithaca novel. But like, so
Greg
lots of
Graffin
natural.
from Bad Religion taught there too.
Oh shit, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah, well I mean there's
Anyway.
a huge rock. No, well I mean there is like a rock presence there too. Obviously like Woodstock is right down the street, like
Hmm.
not really, but then and then like Grateful Dead, very famous concert in Cornell, Ithaca. And also just like the hippie culture, there's a lot of like genuine I want to call it like real hippies for want of a better word, but there's like a lot of like environmental stewardship and conservationism kind of baked into the even like the just the boring crunchy middle class. It is very like homogenous in terms of like culture. Corning
Hmm.
not as much because it's international business there. So I grew up raised by two teachers. My dad is a jazz musician and a teacher. He's retired now. And my mom is a biologist, now a teacher. And all around me, it was basically all corporate people, like all of the people who were my friends' parents, and like everything that was an economic driver in Corning was Corning Inc., which is really interesting. And it's such a small town that like the CEO, his kids, his wife, all family friends, like it's all very like co-involved. So I had this impression really early on, very like very Jay Gatsby style, honestly. Like that's really how I think about it is like I had this like, oh my God, I want to be part of that world. Or maybe I don't, but it's certainly around me.
Hmm.
So I never had this idea that business was like or like the corporate world was like very far away or like this like Wall Street thing. I was like, oh yeah, like everybody does that. So that was part of it. But then the interesting thing is, so when I can't even remember how old I was. I would have been like 14 in 2008 when the housing market crashed.
Hmm.
It was this huge moment in Corning because there were tons of layoffs. And you have to imagine in a town of 10,000 people where, like, my grandma was born like a block from my house. Like, that's how small it is. It's really, really small, like, former Irish working factory town. And
Hmm.
I remember seeing like all these houses get foreclosed on and like just like the sudden like disruption of like, oh my God, this is crazy. And so, even though my parents were, we were pretty solidly like middle class, like, teacher salary, not so great, but like very simple, basic. We had a house, always had plenty to eat. I did have this impression of like, I want to figure out how to have some kind of security. So it was interesting because my dad is obviously someone who is an artist and he's a musician and he always kind of made those sacrifices or like compromises too. And I think a lot of people who start out thinking of themselves as artists have based on a lot of factors, including the fact that a lot of commercial art just sucks.
Hmm.
They feel very like opposed to buying into anything that involves the working world, essentially.
Hmm.
But I think because I was so adjacent to that and I understood that it was just something that it let people travel. Like the first time I ever got onto a plane to New York City was at the corporate jet that like a friend let me land. So it was partially
Wow.
honestly, and not to be like callous about it, but it was like, oh, like the life I want to have that will like get me out of this town, like literally like the pop punk bullshit. But like I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, which is like honestly, it's one of those things that I've had to kind of temper and like figure out like it's not always a good thing. Like but I do think that just because of that dynamic, like I was like, okay, this is my ticket out. And also, again, everybody I knew was kind of like going to these Ivy League universities because it's a lot of like engineers whose parents went to Yale and Harvard. My wife she's like an army brat and she went to high school in
Hmm.
Arizona. And once over dinner, I was like, so what was the most popular Ivy at your public high school in Arizona? And she's like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
most popular Ivy? What are you talking about? Because
Yeah.
it really was like I went to like an experimental charter school that they made for like STEM. So like I was doing like research on like RFID lead paint tariff laws in eighth grade. Like I did a research paper on that.
Wow.
I know. It's like all of this stuff, like I never had an aversion to it. And I think the other thing is that my parents, whether or not this is a good thing to instill in your creative child, they always had this like subtext of like, yeah, do the art thing, but you have to get a job. And I think that they
Yeah.
managed to frame it in a way that was exciting rather than shamey. Like they just knew they were like, you're gonna get a job. You can be a graphic designer. How cool is that? And so,
Hmm.
yeah, so that's the first part of it. And then I think the second part of it, which is just, how, so that's like why I don't have an aversion to business, even though I'm an art person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But after all of that, I obviously still ended up getting really into the arts because of course I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was the corny New York version of kind of like a burnout in high school. Like I got like a 96 average instead of 104, and I went to community college instead of Cornell, which was
Hmm.
like very big deal. But I'm glad that I went to community college. I needed to marinate for a little bit. And when I was there, I got really into art history. I understood that like I still wanted to do the graphic design thing, so I started taking design classes. And I do think that there is a benefit to being like not necessarily like the smartest kid in your class, but like to be like a singular, like I'm gonna really go for it, be a high achiever, use all the resources at a smaller like public community college versus, one of many, many talented fish in a talented pond. And there's lots of
Hmm.
talent at CCC, but it's just not everybody was there to do the 4 year college thing. So I really benefited from that. And I had some really good mentors who were just also, again, super pragmatic, shared a lot of stuff about brand, design, all that
Hmm.
jazz. And then the other thing that I did, which is probably not, this is not scalable advice. I don't know why or how I did it, but I like basically once I started like left high school, I was like, okay, I'm never not going to have a job and that's not related to my chosen field. So, which is a really kind of like pig-headed way of looking at this if you're like 19 and you don't have any job experience. So, the first job that I took was retail at a museum, but it was in a museum. And so that was
Hmm.
good for me. Corning has two major museums. And then I started doing really rinky-dink freelance work for some really funny clients, like my dad's friends who needed gig posters
Hmm.
and like little photo things. And I think that does teach you how to interface with people in like a commercial freelancer way. I was
Hmm.
terrible at it, but that shows you like also the inner workings of a business. And then I think there is also the thing that happens where if you're in a small town, and a lot of these small businesses, a lot of them are just doing stuff that just doesn't make a lick of sense to you. You're like, why
Hmm.
are you doing this? Especially if you're like a graphic designer who's in college who's like, scrolling the Herman Miller website for fun every night. You're like, no, 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 you could be doing so much more. And I think the you could be doing so much more thing, that was really what stuck with me is like
Hmm.
there is a place for design to be needed, and I love to be needed. I'm a
Hmm.
Leo. I
I
love to
didn't
be
want to be the
wanted
one to
and
call
needed.
you out, but
Yeah, no, I mean it's just I love to be needed, and like, but for real, like I think especially because I was by myself in like my hometown with not a lot of like close friends or peers, being able to like work with people and see like their faces light up for the thing that I made. To me, it
Hmm.
didn't matter that I wasn't making like high art because I would go to the painting studio later that night and just paint for 6 hours because I double majored in community college and I double majored and minored in regular college. So I was like
Yeah.
always doing 20 million things. I did English and art history and graphic design, and I loved. I just refused to not have my cake and eat it too, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that idea of like, if you help someone, they'll be really happy. That's part of it. But also just like knowing concretely that I was doing something that was actually the right choice, like that feels really good because art and all of that other stuff is full of so many indeterminate, non-committal things that I actually kind of always kept coming back to design as like, oh, okay, this is actually really solid. I understand this. This has tangible outcomes. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's I think that's the beginning origin part. I'll let you breathe and
Yeah.
sorry for yammering.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of like art types have, and I say this as an art
Yeah,
type because like my
yeah,
origin story like was definitely like didn't involve business at all.
yeah,
um and I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with as far as like, oh, like art is the thing I want to do,
yeah,
but then it's like, well, what does that mean? Because like how, like as far as like the dream is always like to support yourself with your art and working really hard to do that. And I think like obviously it's possible, but then it's
yeah,
that constant like starving artist trope where
yeah,
maybe no one in their lives was like, look, this is possible,
yeah,
having the cake and eat it too, like making sure you set aside that time to
yeah,
still nurture that, but it doesn't have to be the end all be
yeah,
all. I think,
yeah,
I don't know, like I don't think there's enough, I don't think there's enough conversation to be had, at least for like younger artists, like high school. It's like,
yeah,
what does it mean to like be an artist but not have to and still have a fulfilling like art life
yeah.
while
Yeah,
still
and
doing
it
the making money
while still
doing
doing the
something
art
else,
thing. Yeah. Well, and I also think so. I also was on the yearbook. That was a huge thing that impacted me, is because I was doing design and photo on the yearbook. So that's like a commercial achievement in and of itself. But then I think like one thing that young people aren't asked enough is like, what even is an artist to them? You know what I mean? Because I
Mm-hmm.
think when you're young and you're making your art, most of the time it's about you and you're very myopic,
Mm-hmm.
internal, developmental. That's normal. And then there usually comes a period of time right around your like late teens, early 20s where you suddenly just want to look out and absorb everything. And I think that that is a really weird time to be thinking about making money off of that work because
Yeah.
it's supposed to just be this sort of autonomous thing where you're just digesting everything. And to me, like art is really like it's like material philosophy. Like I can't imagine not doing it. And I really believe that like to separate it from like the commercial impulse is a privilege for sure, but I think it
Mm-hmm.
does also sometimes make it better, even though it's harder. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think that people who ask like, do you want to be an artist? It's like, do you want to express yourself for the rest of your life? Do you want to be a marketing team of one for the thing that you feel closest to for the rest of your life? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think kind of like the band thing kind of ruined things for me for a little bit
Yeah.
because immediately, because I started learning guitar when I was like 12. Was in my first like high school or junior high talent show band when I was like 13, 14,
I love it.
and that was like t- the thing that I love to do is, of course, like read like comic books and other books and listen to music all day and play music all day.
Yeah.
Like the idea of like what are you gonna do with your life type of thing like didn't really like
Yeah.
make sense to me because like I just assumed that like something would work out. I mean, because both my parents were in
Yeah.
the military for 20 plus years, and like all my favorite sports figures were on the same team for 10 plus
Yeah.
years, um and like, oh well, that's what you do, like you grow up and you just get a job and you stick with it. But then like once I was in a band, joined a band, a touring band, right. I was 18, right out of high
Oh,
school.
wow.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
like,
know that. I didn't know how, I want to hear this story. Yeah. Tell me
yeah.
about the band.
So high school in Utah is weird because if you're if you're LDS, if you're Mormon, you
Yeah.
go to seminary, which takes the place of a class, which means you don't get credit for that. Like you don't get credit for going to seminary, but like if you fail a
Yeah.
class, like you are behind. Like it's like
Yeah.
you're screwed. I did not have
Crazy.
to do that. So
Yeah.
my senior year, I was there all year, but because I was like in student government, I was kind of like the token punk in student
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
government. There's always one there, so there's always
There's
one.
literally always one. Yeah.
Um, and but I was still like I was going to shows, I was playing in bands, and I ended up joining this band like March of 2003. I'm older than you, but like March of 2003, and I was already like only in school for like 2 or 3 periods.
Wow.
Like, so I was just like phoning it in, and the
Yeah.
phoning it
You're
in
like,
still
fine.
got me A's that year. And
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, well, I don't know about going to college because I was like looking at colleges around me, like whether in Utah,
Hmm.
Colorado. And
Yeah.
but I'm like, oh wait, this could be the thing because this band I joined was starting to like build up some steam, and it's like,
Hmm.
well, we're signing this contract. These two guys are leaving the band. Like, would you want to like tour with us? Would you want to do it? And I'm like, well, that's everything that I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't know what I was going to college for. I was just like, I guess you go to
Yeah.
college, and I didn't have
Yeah.
any like real like goals because like I didn't maybe like be a teacher or something, but that's it. Like,
Yeah.
but I wasn't like
Yeah.
passionate about it. So immediately I was kind of thrown in. It's like, okay, well, we got this tour that's going out to Furnace Fest. Like, can you book this
This
tour?
fast.
And I'm
Yeah.
like 18.
Yeah,
So
you're booking the tour. That's fucking great.
like 18 years old. And so all of a sudden money became tied
Right.
in to the process because you have to make money to go on
Yeah.
tour. And so like it just kind of became ingrained in me that like, okay, well, I didn't even really think of the band as like doing art because we weren't really like high art at least.
Yeah, but you're
You know,
doing your thing. You're doing your
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah. And so, but money always came tied to it. So whenever I was
Yeah.
doing anything like artful or musical from then on, it was just like, well, how do I get people into this? How
Oh,
like
I
make
see.
money? So like the
So the
transaction,
18-year-old show booker inside your head is like, wait.
yeah, like
Yeah.
of course, like how do I get people to care and like care about like what I'm doing, but like how do
Yeah.
I make this almost transactional, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
like my idea of like art and business like immediately became skewed. But
Right.
then as I got older, and especially like when I got married and had kids, because I was like I got married like halfway through my college. I started later because of the music thing. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it kind of took place of the first few years of my life, but not life, but like my post
Yeah.
high
Yeah.
school
I know
life.
what you mean.
Yeah. My adult life.
Your
Um,
adult life.
but like it's like, okay, well, how do I make money? And then the time to do art kind of like when it started
Yeah.
slowly going away. I was
Sure.
like, well, how do I make money? How do I make money? But then like the more that I learned like in school, because I was an English major, and the more that I learned about like communication, like I didn't, again, like in college, didn't learn anything about marketing or branding at all.
Oh, wow.
So it was
Yeah.
just straight like English. Like that's it. and
That's so
um
funny.
and so I just kind of feel like the idea of learning how to communicate with people, like, using words and images to
Hmm.
communicate with people, that didn't like get started. Like the 2 + 2 = 4 didn't happen for me like until 2 or 3 years into my career. Because I was just
Oh, wow.
floating. I was just floating. I was like,
You're
oh,
just
you want me?
chilling.
Like I was writing for overstock.com, but like that was just like, well, I just happened to be here. I'm just here
Yeah.
doing the thing. And so now that I've had like about a decade into my career to really like finally integrating what I learned in college, like the higher
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
hero's journey, like Jungian, somatics, like a semiotic, sorry,
Yeah.
Saussurean type of stuff. I was like integrating that to my work now, but also like using the very like Piscean, like empathy,
Touchy feely.
like
Yeah.
touchy feely stuff, and really helping people because like I understand what it's like to want to do something on your own and doing something on your own and being independent,
Hmm.
especially through the band stuff. And
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, okay, it took a while. It just took a bit.
Yeah.
It takes me a while for things sometimes to
That's
get
it. That's it.
get going,
Get going. I love it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a good thing, honestly. I think that sometimes, I don't know, things take time for a reason, or sometimes they don't, but I think you're learning either way. It's interesting though.
Yeah.
So your first job was writing for overstock.com
As far as after, yeah, as far as
after
the
college.
yeah,
Yeah,
like the first writing specific, because like I worked in a warehouse like for the first year after college
sure.
because I was just like I just gotta like get do something.
Yeah.
And but that was like the first like direct like creative job I had. And
Huh.
also like I was writing album reviews on the side during that warehouse job. Like I was writing for the
That's
weeklies
cool.
here. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like how do I figure that out? Like doing
Yeah.
interviews. Like I interviewed Chris Caraba. I interviewed like Gaslight
Love
Anthem,
that.
which was that's a whole story on itself.
Woo.
But like,
Oh my
uh,
God.
anyway, but like I was still trying to figure it out. But like, it's yeah, in the process of me figuring stuff out, like always moving. It's just
Hmm.
the the brain and the feelings are kind of like always following like my forward momentum, like
Yeah,
physically.
yeah. You just
Um,
like kind of just drag it along the slipstream. Absolutely.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
but no, I get there eventually, like whatever it is,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
life.
It's interesting because I think like because you mentioned the overstock thing, I feel like one thing that's interesting is that I know people who wanted to do basically what we're doing like right from the start. Like, and I actually
Mhm.
think that a lot of the time it's not that they're less successful, but it's a certain type of person. Like I think one thing that you and I have talked about is like a lot of people kind of treat marketing as like this hat trick, this cure-all. It's very snake oily. Like I think a lot of people's
Yeah.
negative connotations with marketing kind of come from people who are really all gung-ho about like it'll solve every problem you have. But I think one thing that I've noticed for the people who are in any kind of like commercial art field is that they've had to work one of those jobs where they're just doing grunt work and like maybe they're the
Mhm.
smartest person in the room but they're still doing the grunt work because I think that that like hones your observational skills about how much of this can be just bullshit, honestly. Like I think that if
Mhm.
you haven't had a couple of shifts in the bullshit mines, you are prone to making more bullshit more than you are if you are not. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. I mean, I can kind of tell you about that experience, like, because I was basically writing product descriptions and SKUs, but
Yeah.
we had to do about like 60 to 70 per day. Yeah. And and depending on like the store, the quote unquote storefront, like I ended up being in charge of like the jewelry store. So that
Okay.
takes longer because there's a lot more to really like hone in and get right, because this would be like
Sure.
$2,000 pieces. So if
Right.
you really needed to make sure the information was correct. So,
Yeah.
but like it kind of allowed me to get frustrated in a good way, to
Hmm.
be like, because I did that for about like a year and a half, I think.
Wow.
And kind of knowing that there's got to be like more, I think there's kind of like this
Yeah.
um there's always been like a tension within me as far as like being unsatisfied in a lot of ways, but like I
I
don't think
think
it's
we
a
have
bad
that in
thing,
common.
you
No,
know.
no, I think we have that in common for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And so I, and especially like I was still learning about, like, the more that I realized marketing was a thing, and the more I realized that like um that I could kind of find myself, not like in a
Mm.
individual type of way, like I'm not finding myself as a person, but like kind of like how I fit
Yeah.
in.
Find your niche. Yeah, no, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
um like I just started being like, not I'm too good for this, that sounds so bad, but in a way, like as far as like what you're saying is like the grunt
Yeah,
work and you're the smartest person in the room, I never there's definitely people smarter than me that I was working with
yeah.
there, but at the same time I was like this can't be
This can't
it.
be it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I think I tell this story sort I don't know if I told you this, but very early on in podcasting, especially like that first year I was working at that warehouse, like doing overtime during Christmas, like just
Yeah.
brutality. I was able to listen to podcasts though, because I was like an assistant manager. So there'd be
Right,
times
right,
I'd be
right.
able to just walk around, make sure everyone's doing their thing.
Yeah.
Matt Pryor from the Get Up Kids had this podcast
Nice.
called like Nothing to Write Home About, I think. And he was talking about the first time the Get Up Kids broke up. And he was just
Hmm.
like, okay, I'm on my own. Like, what do I do? And he was like forced to write like a resume for the first time. And he
Yeah.
broke down all this stuff that he did in the Get Up Kids. And he like kind of like looked at it objectively. And he was like, I ran a business.
It's literally okay. So
Yeah.
this is so funny. There was just like a Twitter mutual of mine, both like the same stuff, and he was
Mm,
asking for help writing a resume, and he sent me over what he had done, and I was like, "Haven't you been in bands for like years?" Because he was applying for like office work, and he it
mm,
didn't occur to him to put any of that stuff. I'm like, "You booked shows, you managed money, you were an accountant, you got people interested in what you were doing. Like all of those are tangible skills. Like."
yeah.
It is crazy how much like just doing DIY, which again, like not to be like, and everyone should be corporate for that reason, but like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you want to be able to make a buck and have some health insurance, it is very scalable. It's kind of crazy how much
It,
it's scalable.
it is. I think I wish I could see my old I wish I could see my old resumes because I think after hearing that, I was like, you know what? It's going to be the last thing I put on my resume, but I'm going to put it on there.
Yeah, it's
And
true. That's what
it,
I had him do. I was like, put it at the bottom, man.
yeah, like it may not be like chrono. I mean, first of all, I never put chronological order on my
Yeah.
resumes.
No.
It's just whatever is more relevant. But like,
Yeah.
I started doing that, and it opened up interesting conversations. Like when I would have
Yeah.
interviews, like, "Oh wow, you did this." I'm like, "Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's unique and it's hard,
Yeah.
and it makes you different than a lot of other people." So like, regardless if it's like a band thing or
Yeah.
an artist type of thing, like if you can kind of like translate what you did in real terms of
Yeah.
like Warp Tour. I
Yeah.
did Warp Tour 2004. Hand sold 10 CDs a day in like 100
They
degree
should just give
weather.
you veterans benefits just for that.
I
Side
know,
note.
like
That's you should.
I lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks.
Oh my
Um,
God.
it was like, but yeah, like I think there's for an artist or a musician or even like someone who has a business, but like maybe have not had that time in the corporate world like we
Yeah.
have, like it's still like pretty there's still so many skills I don't think people really realize that
Yeah.
they've honed in
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people who are, again, like I think a lot of the people who I end up working with, and I think this is similar to you, is like, and also similar to the kinds of people who we want to work with in general, is like people whose business is like very personal to them or who are very close to it for whatever reason, whether they founded it, whether they've been doing it the same thing for 20 years, or like are in a limited market and breaking out into a new market. Like, I think I don't know. I feel very lucky to have the life I had because if I had met my wife, I wouldn't have like moved all around the world and stuff and that let me travel
Mm,
and be more worldly. I'd probably still be in upstate New York. But
mm,
something about feeling like an outsider all the time, I think it made me really good at doing that perception thing where I'm like, let me just get the lay of the land here. Here's the thing that you never thought of doing differently. And I think, I don't know if you always maybe being a military kid, I know that sometimes that gives you that like outsider feeling. I had like terminal
mm.
outsider syndrome. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know. Yeah.
I think for me like it just made it easier for me as far as like military stuff. Like it made it easier
Mm.
for me to, and especially touring, like being in a
Yeah.
different place every day, but like being in a
Yeah.
different environment every 3 years for a bit. I mean, once I
Yeah.
moved to Utah in fourth grade, that slowed down, but I still like moved a lot of houses. I still,
Yeah.
that's extra, not curricular, but like that's extraneous other than like,
Yeah.
direct military
Yeah.
stuff. But I still had military friends here in Utah and they would still move away.
Yeah.
So even though if I say like, so just the constant like moving, shifting parts,
Constant
like,
shifting.
and I think that allows me to kind of like look around and be like, okay, what's new?
Yeah.
What new uh data is around me? Like kind of seeing it as data is like a new thing for me, but that's what
Yeah.
I would do, and so
Yeah.
like it was never really a gut punch for something to change
Yeah.
until my career got started. And then the
Yeah.
idea of
Then it's like,
stability
oh,
is
it's
like,
stability. Yeah.
yeah.
But like constant change, it's stressful. But like I do think like if you experience it at a certain age, especially if you know kind of what you want, or even if you're not super driven ambitious wise, but if you love music and that's your thing, whatever it is, like I think you learn to be resourceful. Like I know a lot of people who just like they can get plunked in a new place and they kind of won't explore in the same way. They won't be like, I want this. I want to figure this out. I want to find the really cool coffee shop and find the really cool park. And like that's like just basic travel and like life stuff. But I do think that there's something about that that translates to being in new work context, being in a new freelance environment, being like, okay, what can I actually tangibly do instead of, I think sometimes marketing, it can be formulaic and you're like just applying a formula that doesn't really fit everybody. So I think
Mm,
being resourceful and being kind of a sponge and being down to absorb new things or absorb new data is actually a really important skill. And that's one of those things I
mm.
didn't realize that that was a skill until I started to be in situations where some people weren't doing that and I was, and that was a weird experience, but I don't know if you've ever
Yeah,
encountered that.
I very recently I have.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm doing like a couple hours a day, just doing like basic content um for this newer like AI company or whatever. Like I'm
Yeah.
just making LinkedIn posts basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other day I was kind of talking to like my point person there. I'm like,
Hmm.
how are these posts doing? And he was like, oh, we're not really looking at that. In the back of my head, I'm like, why the fuck not?
Why not?
And I didn't say it because I'm
Yeah.
only working a couple hours a day on this
Yeah.
stuff. Like my unless they want me to be really like in the weeds, like they can up my pay like 20 bucks more an hour, I guess. But like, but the fact that like, but contrast that with a new thing I'm doing, probably starting here soon. But only that again, like that's only a couple hours a day for this new thing, but they're going to give me a ton of data
Yeah.
to like really see like what's happening under the hood and make decisions and strategize and stuff like that. And I'm
Yeah.
like the night and day difference of being like, well, we're just throwing shit out, and
And
then
just doing it.
and I think 7 or 8 years ago, it's like, okay, just make stuff. I'd be like, okay, and I would just do it,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
But but now, but I think I would probably still have like a weird feeling of like, well, why not? But
Yeah.
even now, like, it was almost like offensive to me now versus
No,
maybe like several years ago.
yeah.
And
It's
yeah, it's
crazy
wild
how
to
I mean
me.
it's wild because like some people just don't think about it and it's not I think that again it is like some people don't understand what marketing is or is for. And I sometimes wonder because you got me started in on that, but I wonder if that first impression of like, oh, big corporate entities can just collapse all of a sudden, like realizing that even if you're not
Yeah,
working in tight margins as an eighth grader or anything, I was like, I saw that and I was like, oh, you actually have to make sure that this works. You know what I mean? Whatever it
yeah.
is, it has to work. Um, but then being in tech for 5 years, like I was, because were you in tech or you were in finance for a little bit?
It's I was what happened with me was I've been kind of all over the place because you got
Yeah,
like ecom with Overstock, and then I had
yeah,
like another ecom slash a ecom adjacent. Like it's weird. That one company was
yeah,
weird. Like, but that's where I got my started, like working
yeah,
like on like Wrangler shit, on like Cliff Bar shit.
yeah,
Like basically I was just doing like creating content for these brands in order for people to learn about it so they can buy it like
yeah,
like at a discounted rate or like or be better recommenders like in a retail sense. So I guess
yeah,
you could say that's like ecom ish. And
yeah,
then yeah, like it's weird. Like if I think about it that way, my life has been mostly before going on my own doing brand stuff was like
yeah,
ecom stuff up until like
yeah,
like I did like I was at Asurion for a year, like
yeah,
um they're like no, not even tech, like they're an insurance company essentially.
yeah.
And then I had like a small like association management company. So like your American Cancer Association, like they like
Oh,
manage
yeah,
like
yeah.
different
Mm-hmm,
things
mm-hmm.
like that.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, no, I've had a pretty nonlinear career other
Yeah.
than econ. Oh, no, sorry, now I'm kind of going off track, but like
No.
I never, but my experience, I guess like my first experience of tech-ish type of stuff
Mm-hmm.
was that second job, like where I was
Yeah.
doing like, um, and I think that was like my first layoff. I was like, that can
That's what I was going
happen.
to talk about
Yeah.
is like the craziness of that is like, because I think tech, it exists in this thing. I mean, because I really benefited from the 5 years that I spent working in fintech, but like
Yeah.
it is this weird superimposition because I worked through the pandemic. That was the weirdest part is like I weathered that.
Hmm.
But there's this bubble of like, and I don't think it was the company that I worked for was particularly pronounced in this, but I think the culture in San Francisco, it kind of differs down to like the Googles and the YouTubes of the world where it's like everything is amazing. You're in a big playground, but then there's also these like razor thin margins and everything is completely tied to like the spinning wheel of the economy. And it's very strange. I don't think that there's an
Yeah.
industry that is like that other than tech right now.
Yeah. And that's kind of why because here in Utah, like, so, you have like Silicon Valley, we have our own thing here called Silicon Slopes. And I've actually been like interviewed by
Heard.
like the organization, like that. It's a, it's,
Yeah.
it's, it is like an organization, but it's also like this idea where like you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like all these like entrepreneurs that like went to BYU and they're just like clamoring for VC money.
Oh boy.
And the last few years, like it's just layoff after layoff after
Yeah.
layoff.
Yeah.
And and especially like from my first place that I got laid off from, like I was there for like 3 years. So
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be like my 20 plus year thing, as far as like this idea of
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
being a
Totally.
veteran, I guess. And once I kind of started seeing that from the outside in, because I've been on my own since January 22. And so I've
Wow.
had the last 3 years kind of see like the lay of the land. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why would I even bother trying to work for these companies if all
Yeah.
I know is I'm going to be like gone in three to
Yeah.
6 months? Now I feel like I'm a little bit healthier. I'm just like, well, I just kind of view it as like, well, if they hire me, they're just a client of mine,
Yeah. For
you
sure.
know? So like
Yeah. No,
rather than
you
seeing it
can't
as
get
like a
attached.
safety,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um,
I totally understand that because I started working. I mean, I was very lucky to get the job that I got because my wife was she enrolled in the law school in San Francisco and I was living in Buffalo, New York at the time. And so I
mhm.
was like I had just left this job at this like manufacturing company that did dairy, which was like the most East Coast small margins. Like you had to clock in and out like you were at the factory, even though it was like a white collar job. Oh my God, it was
Yeah.
nuts. And like South Buffalo Italians, like all of the Buffalo accent that I have comes from working in that office for 2 years. But so I spent my last unemployment check to fly to San Francisco to do job interviews for the company that I worked at for five
Wow.
years, and only just recently left in at the end of June. But and it was really weird because I never thought that I was going to get a job like that. Like, I think that that was the strange thing is like, if you go into tech and kind of fall into it, which I think is less likely to happen now than it was even 10 years ago,
Yeah.
like you're around people whose entire life path has just basically been like, I am going to work for a San Francisco-based tech company in sales or in marketing. And like, I, I really benefited and learned a lot from that. And it also just totally changed my like financial situation and everything and let me live in San Francisco and then move to Atlanta. But it was strange to realize how many people took that for granted. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like you went to a 4 year private college and have like a one bedroom in San Francisco. And that's like, that's the baseline for you. Like to me,
Mhm.
that's like the most pie in the sky crazy thing. And
Yeah.
I do think that it can be anxiety inducing, but it also, I think, makes you question stuff that other people wouldn't necessarily question. Like, I think that that was why I was successful and became like a brand strategist in that role eventually, was that like I was asking questions that nobody else felt like asking because they just hadn't been outside of it ever.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but yeah, I think that that's like a lot of marketing strategy now. I think takes notes from the tech world, and the weird part about that is that tech depends on that sort of fanciful universe where everything is fine and we don't
Yeah.
actually, you know what I mean? I don't know how you feel about
Well,
that, but
that's
I feel like I noticed that.
well, I think like I think it was like that, but I do
Yeah.
think like now, like I feel like a lot of the veneer is
Yes.
breaking
Yes.
apart. And so I think if you're gonna take, at least now, if you're gonna take cues from the tech world, like I think that's kind of dangerous in a way that it's like the homogeny and also like
Yes.
there's not really much of a personality anymore.
Yeah.
And so your idea of so one thing I was thinking about when you're talking about being like, oh, I'm just from like upstate New York, but I'm now in
Yeah.
here in like
Mm.
Silicon Valley. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's something to that that's beneficial because like you don't have these preconceived notions of how like I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this is
Yeah.
my goal. So like you read
Yeah.
like these stories about people like living in box trucks just to like live
Yeah.
like work at
Literally.
Google, but that's what they want. But the fact that it wasn't you, that allows you
Yeah.
to be like, well, what about this? Like it's
Yeah.
like it's not your personality, it's not your
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of makes me unequipped to really thrive, at least in my tech scene here,
Yeah.
because like I've never, I don't care. Like
No,
I
it's a means
like
to an end.
yeah, like and so, but if all of a sudden, like say if there was someone who I mean, of course, now you're getting into the idea of like kind of like the egomaniac, like
Yeah.
CEO founder
Yeah.
type of thing, like as
Yeah.
far as
Yeah.
like that world goes, because like I do love working with like founders and stuff, but like
Yeah.
I just feel like it's specific in the tech world. Like if there was like a sane CEO who was really passionate about it,
Yeah.
like I would love to help them. Like I would
Me
love to
too.
do that. Um, but that's not how things have gone.
Yeah. Well, and
um,
it's like a lot of people don't fit into that and then they just get chopped before they can be a CEO, which, I would
yeah.
love to take someone who's like not a CEO yet, but could be the good version of that down the line. Yeah, because it's very weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Continue though.
But I think like as the sooner that we kind of learn that like the models like I didn't read it but I saw like a headline the other day. It's just like
Mhm.
I think I got something from the New York Times talking about like how like Silicon Valley has changed as far as like yeah, this used to be the place where people really wanted to go but now it's changing.
Yeah.
It was literally yesterday I saw that. And it's just
Nice.
like this world of like chasing the butterfly or whatever, like this
Yeah. Yeah.
ideal of like this ideal career. It's I just don't think it's there anymore. And
Yeah.
I
No.
think there's something to be said about like you can still going back to like the starving artist thing, like but in a different way. It's like, well, there is a world where like you could work 20 hours like bartending
Yeah.
while still focusing the other 20 on like building the shit that you're into and like
Yeah. Yeah.
educating yourself on how marketing works or if that's just
Yeah.
if that's how you're wired,
Yeah.
not everyone's like
Yeah.
that. But like I do feel like there used to be shame with that, not
Yeah.
with myself but in general, like you're not like making it, but it's just like
Yeah.
but like but isn't it cool that there could be a model of
Yeah.
you being like, yeah, I'm gonna bartend all weekend, but like during the week, I'm doing cool shit that like I want to do.
I want to do.
Not a lot of people can say that these days.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I also get really geeky about like, because I'm a historian by nature, and I do think that like we were just talking about like economic history. I think that one of the weird things about tech is that it is an industry that I think a lot of like the average person doesn't realize the just like the tax breaks and like the way that startup culture was influenced by like 0% interest rates and like the ability to grow. The
Yeah.
idea that like I think that there's a really good uh book that I'll have to send you. It's called
Mm,
Subprime Attention Crisis, and it's about the
mhm.
bubble at the center of digital advertising. And I think some of the data in it is now out of date because it's a couple years old. But I like it because it talks about just kind of how our financial model of like the internet and like tech in general, users as a concept, eyeballs as a concept, is like going to slowly depreciate in value, and there's not really a replacement for it. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of the people who like me, like grew up during like that 0% interest rate tech boom where like we just kind of didn't really understand how this stuff was making money, but it just was. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I think that there's an interesting thing that happens where a certain type of person, if you're creative, you get grossed out by the money part of it, and then you
Mhm.
just completely ignore some of those functions and structures. And by doing that, you're actually really ignorant to like the reality of how this stuff works. Like I think that sometimes you need to look directly at it, and it doesn't mean that you're like buying into it, but
Yeah.
understanding like basic economics, like the input output stuff. It explains so much of I think these big shifts that people otherwise might be really confused by. And I think behavior in terms of like how secure are those like the venture capitalist bros right now? Are they covering their asses with stuff that includes AI in order to talk, avoid the fact that we have like a talent drain in software engineers and all of that stuff. Like there's like all of these
Mm,
little things. And I think that like a lot of marketers just don't concern themselves with that because we're creatives or whatever. But I think that it's
yeah.
actually so important to understand those underlying conditions because otherwise you're going to be in a room with someone who's like, I just feel like everything is harder these days. And it's like, yeah, there's a
Hmm.
reason for that. You know what I mean? Like there's like
Yeah.
that pressure that you feel. It's very real and it comes from like very top-down factors. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my
Well,
yeah.
no, no. I think there's something you said about that because, like, and maybe this can wrap up like in 10 minutes or so. But
Yeah.
I think it's important. I
Yeah.
think it kind of dives into why we want to do what we want to do as far as
Yeah.
like helping people in the way that we know. Because, like, once I
Yeah.
kind of understood that there was not actually like real money being made,
Yeah.
like in this world,
Literally.
like, I'm like, well, what then what am I doing if it's not
What
like
am I
actual
doing?
tangible? Like if I'm just
Yeah.
because they're essentially borrowing money to be able to pay people to build this product that's never really ever like turning a profit.
Yeah.
It's like it feels very smoke and mirrors to me.
Performance.
But then when I'm like on Instagram and I see someone who, whether it's an artist or a marketer or whatever else,
Mhm.
and they're actually like selling something worth of value, whether it's intellectual value or
Yeah.
whether it's consulting or whether it's like music, when I see people like, for instance, like um I ran into this artist on like Spotify. I'm pretty sure she's completely independent. She has like 10 million monthly listeners, and if you're
Wow.
independent, like you are making a living if and like from that. And that, I would say that's more
Insane.
value than like just constantly borrowing money from VCs
Oh
and hoping
yeah.
to God, like, oh,
Yeah.
we're in our seed C. And it's just like
Yeah.
I find more inspiration in that, or like the small business down the
Yeah.
street, like who people are actually like trading
Yeah.
money for like a slice of pizza or something like
Yeah.
that. And so I
Yeah.
just feel like that's far more tangible, that's far more personal, that's far
Yeah.
more and I think people can derive meaning from like, this is not me, like I would probably not I work at Meta or anything like that, and I know
Yeah.
someone who does work at Meta and it's like the greatest part of his life, but like but like, he probably won't
Good,
listen to this, but
good
like
for him.
good for him, but that's not me, that's not how I'm wired, that's not
No.
what I've learned in my time in the trenches, and but I've
Yeah.
learned good things in the trenches dealing with sort of things like that, and I've
Yeah.
seen what works, and that's why I'm still here,
Yeah.
and that's why when we start talking, like like
Yeah.
seeing how like brilliant you were, and like respecting you, and things like that, it's just like, okay, I can imagine myself
Yeah.
partnering with someone in order to help someone along, because like some people get some people are successful in business and they don't know what they're doing, and they're running into trouble
Yeah.
and they don't know how to fix it because like they're just kind of like accidentally,
Yeah.
and that's great. Like,
They just fall into it. Yeah.
yeah. And I think there's something to be said about taking like, or weeding out the bullshit we've learned. that's
Yes. Weeding
that's
out
like,
the bullshit.
yeah, and like giving people like what's actually like
Yeah.
tangible and simple, and
Something
yeah,
you were saying a second ago about like the money not being tangible. I think that that was what I was circling is like we were talking
yeah,
about how a lot of even a lot of marketing agencies right now. And I'm not trying to shit on other marketing agencies, but I think that there's like
yeah.
a model for like what people think marketing is, what they do with it, how they approach it. And especially, I guess like we could say marketing, but we're also talking about strategy, right? Like really
Mm-hmm.
decision-making stuff that is going to drive your business and also like your imprint, your brand, whatever it is. I do think that because so much of what tech, finance, VC, like all of that stuff is, it's very intangible. The
Mm-hmm.
marketing, it is like, I mean, you've probably been in meetings, like it's a lever, like it's just something that they pull on and off. And it's not that it doesn't matter because I think that brand truly does matter. And like people's work matters in terms of like, you can do tech marketing badly and it'll show.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there's a degree to which like at some point it's all just the lever that you're pulling. And if you're
Yeah.
using that strategy for somebody's small business, that is so not true. Like it's just
Yeah.
never going to work. And just sometimes having something is not better than having nothing. Like it's about making smart decisions and knowing that you don't have unlimited resources. So I think being able to see through that bullshit is very critical if you're choosing someone to partner with on strategy, because if
Yeah.
you can't do that, you're going to be taking your tangible thing and applying a little powder puff of intangible fluff to it, and you don't want that.
Yeah, I think like kind of like my superpower, I guess, is like there's a little bit of woo to it, but like
Yeah.
as far as like a, a third of like my astrological chart is Pisces, but at the other another third is Aries. So it's just like
Woo.
I feel like it's very like, yeah, I'm going to understand your business and why you're doing it, why it's important, why you're doing it for other
Yeah.
people, but I can take that, ball it up in like the whole idea of like Aries, like God of War thing, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
here's the map, here's how we're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
conquer
Yeah.
this shit, like here
Exactly.
like we're gonna feel great about
We're gonna send it out as
feelings.
fire.
We're gonna
Yeah.
cry while we're doing it, but we're gonna
Yeah.
fucking rock. Like
I'm just like imagining just like on fire. It's like,
yeah,
yeah. That
yeah,
was like the concert I was at last weekend. It was everything on fire, everybody crying.
yeah, yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
And didn't My Chemical Romance have kind of like a war kind of thing, like
Oh, no,
dictatory
yeah, literally. I
type
mean,
of vibe
Gerard
to
Way,
it?
famous Aries. Like, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Okay, can I
Yeah.
say something and then I need to go in about five
Yes.
minutes? I've been meaning to tell you this for the last like 2 weeks, and you're probably gonna break off our partnership right now.
What?
Okay, I used to watch My Chemical Romance every day on that Warp Tour during like three
Yeah.
cheers, and like I know what pajamas Gerard Way wore on that tour. But
I didn't mean to do a spit take. Oh,
it
sorry.
was like
Keep going.
Nightmare Before Christmas. He like go outside of his
Oh
bus
my
just like
God. Oh yeah, he
sucking
had like the
down like
skeleton pajama. I feel like I've seen
yeah.
photos of that. Oh my
Um
God.
but
So funny.
but I have not listened to the Black Parade in whole the
Oh,
entire time
really?
it's been out. I've just heard the singles.
Really?
It's like one of okay, it's one of those things at
Yeah,
the time. So
yeah.
you got like the Black Parade, you've
Yeah.
got American Idiot. I was
Yeah.
working at a bookstore at that time, I think. And so I
Oh,
was
and
in
you were
the back
here. Yeah,
room
yeah,
like during college. I worked at Barnes
yeah,
and
yeah,
Noble for
yeah,
like
yeah.
2 or 3 years. Um,
Classic.
but like we were able to listen to music in the back room, and it was like it
Yeah.
was the radio
Yeah.
or like our iPods that we plugged in. So I'd
Yeah,
hear the
yeah.
singles of both of those
Yeah.
albums, and for some reason I'm like, I'm good.
You're good.
But
Oh,
like,
you do
but
yourself
Black
a treat. Listen to the whole thing. It's
and like so
great.
and the Black Parade is so up my alley as far as
Yeah.
storytelling, as far as vibe. Yet this
Go
is
for
something I
it.
probably should have like I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, so I know I need to do it. But
Yeah.
like I see it for what it is now, and I see it for like as far as like a work of like art and things
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that. And like for some reason, I was just like the whole time it was just too much.
Too much. Oh, no, no, I
Like
understand. You're like, I can't. And then it becomes that thing where like, oh, I'm not going to even touch it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, just too much exposure in other ways that like, and it's not like I didn't
Hmm.
like the music, like
Yeah.
but um so I think as part of my next homework, as far as like our partnership is concerned,
Yeah.
I need to listen to the Black Parade and give
Gotta listen
you a
to it.
10-page essay
It's a 10
about
page essay. All right, really quick before we have to go, because I know we do
yeah.
have to go. It is funny that you mentioned this because I got into My Chemical Romance in during the 2020 pandemic. I was not an OG fan. I did not grow up with them. I was not like my wife bought us tickets to the reunion show that then got delayed 3 times. But
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of the same experience where like I was in marching band like in 2008 like when that came out. Everybody was like wearing the t-shirts. I was in the clarinet section, which is like for all of like the little emo losers or whatever, and I was like, no, I'm gonna be different. I was not
Yeah,
different. I would have benefited greatly from My Chemical Romance in high school. Instead I was listening to like Godspeed You Black Emperor and shit. Like I don't know. But
you were
like
too cool for My Chemical
I
Romance.
was too cool for My Chemical Romance, which is funny because no, I wasn't. But like I super duper wasn't. But I listened to it all, like I mainlined everything. I started with Bullets, and that was like the first
Mm,
thing I heard. My wife and I were building IKEA furniture, and I heard Vampires Will Never Hurt You, and I was like,
that song is so
oh,
good.
but I was like, I've been waiting for this my whole, it was like suddenly I was like, no, this is what I need right now. And so I listened to the whole first album, but then, so I have to say, like, it's never too late. Their second album that they just remastered sounds really good. But
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like sit down and listen to it all the way through, headphone, like eyes closed, have a beer or something.
yeah,
It's pretty damn good. It's
yeah,
good.
yeah. Because I saw a lot of those songs on Warped Tour, but like Otter, the first like drummer, was on it, and I'm really
Yeah.
weird about like judging how
Oh,
like
he's not
judging.
good.
He wasn't good. I'm like, this band would be great because like Gerard
Yeah.
Way would be so like probably literally cracked out on
Yeah.
stage, but he was so like magnetic and he
So
was so
magnetic.
good.
Good.
And but then you just have this like
This
Otter, if you're
drummer.
listening, I'm sorry, but like, it's like, he's just looking at him, and it's like which
No,
one of these things is not like the other in so many
I
different
know.
ways.
In so many
So
ways.
I,
No.
but I love the drummer that they have now. I'm
Yeah.
familiar with his work in the hardcore band, The Suicide File, and he rips.
Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah, sometimes I always like to imagine like an AU where My Chemical Romance had a really good drummer from the get.
Hmm.
Um, but I like literally can't. Like I don't know, it's just like really funny because they're such a guitar band. Like they're really not a
Yeah,
drums band at all. Like Thursday's a drums band to me. Like they're like a rhythm
Thursday
section
is a
band.
drums band. Yeah,
But like, and that's like a very funny dynamic too, that they were like, gig produced by the guy from Thursday. And it's like, well, that's not a drums band though. So figure it out. I don't know how you
yeah,
do
yeah,
that, honestly. But, yeah, no, Bob Brier's parts in those two albums, like, he obviously
hmm,
passed away, but the new drummer they have, he's really good at imitating his style, which is kind of crazy.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I really like My Chemical Romance, and I do think that like there aren't actually a lot of bands from that era that are true like big lead rock guitar part singing
yeah,
guitar bands. Like
yeah,
the thing that they do where like the guitars are always like kind of backing the vocals and following the vocals and not the drums is like really interesting. Like you
yeah,
might because you play bass, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, so I'd be interested to know a bassist's opinion because the bass parts are fun, but it's really not a rhythm section band. But
yeah. I
yeah,
never saw
yeah.
Mikey like so. Mikey felt just like the vibe, like
He's
the laid
there.
back vibe. Like he
Yeah,
always looked cool, but like
yeah,
as a big Smashing Pumpkins fan, like all the different things about like just
yeah,
how viral like the Smashing
yeah.
Pumpkins and My Chemical Romance have been
It
together.
cracks me up.
Like,
Yeah.
uh,
No, I feel like he's like the vibe doctor for sure.
yeah, they just seem like great dudes. So like I just
Yeah.
think I know it's time, and I almost texted you to be like, do I like might should I just do the weird thing and just like listen to Danger Days instead of like Blackbird?
Oh, I mean, okay, so Danger Days, really quick. I mean, like literally, you want my, and this is off the
Yeah,
record,
yeah,
but like my diagnosis of every My Chemical Romance order album in order is like the first one is literally like what if a Thursday album was goth in a Misfits way and
yeah,
not
yeah.
a Cure way. And
Okay.
then the second one is like what if The Crow had Metallica in it. Like that's really like what that second one
Hmm.
is. It's like this really goth thing, but it's like metalhead, like Metallica nerd riffy
Yeah.
stuff. And then the Black Parade is like what if Cabaret was Queen was Phantom of the Paradise, obviously. But then
Yeah,
Danger
yeah,
Days, it really is kind of like a Kylie Minogue power pop Mad Max thing, but with like the Stooges in it and like some new
yeah.
metal stuff. And it's like very it's so weird because I
It's
think one thing I
bizarre.
admire, it's bizarre. Well, because the one thing I admire about my Chemical Romance is actually their ability to be super, super derivative, but still not feel derivative at all. Like it's almost
Yeah,
like inspiring to me as a marketer who believes in stealing shit because I'm like, you can do Mad Max Desert Fantasy Iggy Pop and it will still feel like something unique if you just fucking commit. Like that's
yeah.
crazy
Commit
to
to the
me. It
bit.
shouldn't work like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm all about stealing to make shit happen. And
Yeah.
so anyway, I know like we're kind of going back and forth as far as like what this thing is called, like as far as like what we do at this point, like the website, if anyone's listening to this and they want to know exactly what we're doing, like right now it's
Mm.
chapterscreative.com unstuck reset. Like I know we're thinking about a lot of different ways of like
Yeah.
of course it's about getting unstuck, but really I think where we landed the last time we talked was it's like, well, it's really about pivot points, honestly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I think it's just kind of like a natural thing that happens. Like when you're stuck, it's like, well, you need to pivot. And
Yeah.
so So basically, we just
I had
yeah.
a
Go
name
ahead.
idea. No, I had a
Okay.
name idea, and I didn't want
Okay.
to knock it because I
Just do
want
it.
to make sure that I kind of like the idea of like the real reset or something that has like realness in it, like just
Okay.
because like a
Where's
real
my pen?
tangible thing. Oh yeah.
No, I got my notes app up here.
You got your
So
notes app. And I also
so
I'm recording this to the cloud so we can transcribe.
yeah.
Um,
So real reset. Okay, we could.
yeah.
Okay.
Something, but like something that has like something about tangibility or reality or like actionability without any
Mm,
of those terms. But I like just the reset too. Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, continue though. Sorry, I
Anyway,
didn't want
but
that
like
idea to go
so,
away.
but
Yeah.
I'll still put that like in the notes,
Yeah.
so if anyone wants to
Yeah.
check that out.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy we did this because I feel like I think once people get to know us, they'll really like us. I mean,
We're just two lovable characters. Come on. Come on. We need to like really corner the fucking market. I have to find there's a guy who used to tour with the used who used I used to see at work conferences and he was like it's like again there are dozens of us, dozens, but like for
mm,
real, like it is funny that like this little like community of people who have our intersection of interests. There's dozens of us, but even people who just want normal people to do marketing work for them that is really good. Like I think we
yeah,
should do more of these. This is actually really fun. I also just like
yeah,
to get to know you better. It's fun.
yeah. It's fun.
Yeah,
We're fun.
yeah, we're fun. We're
I need to
charming.
go to Atlanta again because I really actually
Yeah.
really love Atlanta, and
Oh
but we'll
yeah.
figure it out. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, so like I said, this is where marketing brain comes in.
Yeah.
Chapters creative slash chapterscreative.com/slash unstuck reset.
Yeah.
And then we'll do more of
Yeah.
these. Let's do it. And
Yeah.
then maybe we'll have like the rebrand of the product
The
at some other
rebrand of their
point.
product. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I think that that's just being radically honest. Should
Yeah.
we never really introduced ourselves also? Should I
I know,
say who
right?
I am? I know, we're terrible at
Yeah,
this.
real quick. Well, I'll splice it. It'll be
Slice
so
it in.
awkward. I'll be the
Yeah,
edit
no,
would be
it's like
so fucking awkward.
that would be
Uh,
so funny.
so maybe we
Um,
should just say like I've been,
I've
I've
been
been,
so I've been, and then tomorrow I'll be someone else.
yeah,
I've been Amanda Killian, brand strategist and designer, partnering with,
I've been Matthew Nana's brand strategist and copywriter. So you get the sides of the coin with us.
yeah, you
So and
get
also
both.
different. You get both.
Fire
Why
and
not both?
ice.
It's like that
Why
gift.
not
Like
both? Yeah.
why not both? That
Porque no
girl.
dos dos? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and on that note, woo, we did it. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.
All right. Woo. Bye.